Excuse the noises outside, it's just a truck. But anyways, after a full week, I'm finally doing my Read-Aloud Captain Underpants Book 8. Captain Underpants, the Preposterous, Plight, the Purple Potty People, the 8th epic novel by Pilkey. Hi everybody, as you can see, we're experiencing technical difficulties. This comic book should get you up to date on our story so far. The often told, untold story of Captain Underpants and your heritage. Once upon a time, two kids named George and Hale. We're super awesome, me too. But then he to away Mr. Crump, who was me. I'm all that stuff! So George and Hale hypnotized him with 30 hypnotic. You'll be our every command. Then they accidentally made him think he was a superhero. You're Captain Underpants. Look at me, I'm Captain Underpants! But he escaped and ran after five crimes. Oh, no! Rats! And George and Hale ran after him. Hey, come back here! No way! Then one day he drank some superpowers. Now he has superpowers and stuff. Look at me, I have superpowers and stuff. Oh, man. But if you think that's bad, it gets worse. Pay attention because this next part is important. The worst part is that whenever Mr. Crump hears somebody snap their fingers, snap, he turns into Captain Underpants. Oh, and whenever somebody snaps one on his head, he turns it back into Mr. Crump. Blah, blah, blah. In their last adventure, George and Hale got two new pets, a bionic captor named Sulu, cool, and a pterodactyl named Crackers. Awesome! Everything was cool until this brainiac named Melvin showed up. I'm telling! Melvin made a time machine out of a purple potty. It looked like this. Anyway, George and Hale wanted to use the time machine, but Melvin had one rule. Don't use the time machine 2 days in a row. Okay? If you use it 2 days in a row, something very bad will happen. Okay? I mean it. Don't use it 2 days in a row. Okay? Seriously, don't use it 2 days in a row. Okay! Then, hey, let's use this thing 2 days in a row. Okay. And so, George, Hale, Crackers, and Sulu used the time machine 2 days in a row, and something very bad happened. What will happen next? Chapter 1, George Hale. This is George B. Hamilton's George's skeleton on the right with the time to flat down. Harold is the one of the... I'm sorry, hold on. 1 second. This is George B. Hamilton's George is the skeleton on the right with the time to flat top. Harold is the one on the left with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. It's usually George on the left and Harold on the right. But I did think they mix it up sometimes. But anyway, as you might remember from our last adventure, George and Hale had recently made the horrifying mistake of trying to pass through a synthetic time warp without letting the C2X906 Super BIM Flimanatrix drive with their Beeble Flux capacitating Zolzivire cooldown, thus creating a sub-paradoxical dimensionalistic alternicon shift, which opened up a hyper-Google-phonic screen door into a sub-omnivating ultra-zenticular bio-nanzonoflanamarzipan. God, those are complex words. Anyway, to put it in scientific terms, they screwed up. But don't get all freaked out because everybody looks like a skeleton. X-ray beams are a normal byproduct of interdimensional reality shifting. Don't worry, it'll probably clear by the time you turn the page, like right now. See, what did I tell you? Yeah, the book explains that they hadn't really had their skins teared off. It was just a little bit of X-ray vision. Anyway, George, Hale, and their loyal pets suddenly found themselves wishing they had never set foot inside the petrifying purple potty that was about to send them all into a journey into the horrifying abyss of the unknown. A journey that would probably spell impending doom for themselves, and would most likely bring about the end of our civilization as we know. Before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, those wacky grown-ups. It's been said that adults spend the first 2 years of their children's lives trying to make them walk and talk, and the next 16 years trying to get them to sit down and shut up. It's the same way with potty training. Most adults spend the first few years of a child's life cheerfully discussing pee and poopies and how important it is to learn how to put your pee-pee and poo-poo in the potty like big people do. But once children have mastered the art of toilet training, they're immediately forbidden to ever talk about poo-pee, toilets, or other bathroom-related subjects again. Such things are suddenly considered rude and vulgar and are no longer rewarded with praise and cookies and juice boxes. One day you're a superstar because you pooped in the toilet like a big boy, and the next day you're sitting in the principal's office because you said the word poopy in American history class, which if you ask me is the perfect place to say that word. You're probably wondering, why would adults do that? Why would they encourage something one day and discourage it the next? The only answer is that adults are totally bonkers and should probably be avoided of all times. Yeah, the book just said that parents are stupid. Also, another way you can think about it is, just think about it for a minute. A century ago, people would be telling their children to stop reading stupid books and instead go outside and play. Now, parents are probably telling their children to stop playing video games and play on the computer, watching YouTube all day, and go read a book. Like I'm doing right now. Think about it. And probably a century from now, parents are probably going to be saying, stop doing whatever the new thing is. Go play on the computer. Think about that. Okay. Moving on. Perhaps you'll be lucky to find a small handful of grown-ups whom you can trust, but I'm sure we can all agree that you really have to keep an eye on most adults most of the time. Which is just what George and Harold did. Chapter 3, The School of Hard Knocks. Unfortunately, the adults at George and Harold's school were anything but trustworthy. Take the principal, Mr. Crump, for example. Mr. Crump's wicked heart thrived on the teardrops of children. His very soul danced at the thought of crushing a child's spirit and dashing his or her hopes and dreams against the jagged rocks of never-ending despair. Each day, Mr. Crump would stand at the doorway to his office, gleefully handing out detention slips to any child who was unfortunate enough to cross his putrid path, and for very minor infractions too, like smiling, breathing without permission, or smelling funny. As bad as Mr. Crump was, most of the teachers in George and Harold's school were even worse. And apparently, I've heard that apparently part of the reason why people made the school so incredibly cruel is to teach kids like, hey, your school isn't probably that bad, and we just see how this school acts. Fortunately for George and Harold, their evil educators were now very intelligent. They could be outsmarted easily, and they often were. Now, you might think that it wasn't very sporting of George and Harold trying to outsmart dumb people, and perhaps you'd be right, but George and Harold were just trying to make the best of a bad situation. But unfortunately for George and Harold, their bad situation was about to get much, much worse. Chapter 4, Purple Pottyville. After several intense minutes of orange flashing lights, x-ray beams, and lightning-infused electric whirlwinds, the Purple Potty finally stopped shaking and sputtering, and it came to a sudden halt. Thick yellow smoke poured from its glowing hot tailpipes as the grinding gears and coughing motors shifted into power-down mode. George and Harold had no idea what to expect. They were supposed to be perched high up in a prehistoric tree 65 million years ago in the Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era. But as they stepped out the plastic door of the Purple Potty, the boys were disheartened to find themselves in the middle of the school library, right where they had started. "What are we doing here?" asked Harold. "I don't know," said George. "Something must have gone wrong." Harold carefully tucked crackers back into his book bag, and the two boys looked around the brightly lit library. "Well, hello, boys," said the school librarian. "This is Buy Books Week. Would you like to expand your minds today?" No thanks," said George. "Hey," said Harold, "did you get fired in the last book?" "I don't think so," said the librarian. Said George, "I'm not feeling very good about this." "I'm not feeling good," asked Melvin Neely, who was struggling to comprehend the easy-to-read children's bestseller, Frankenfurter vs. the Bionic Barf Bunnies for Diarrhea Land. "Maybe you should go see the school nurse." "We have a school nurse?" asked George. "What? I thought we just had a box of panties and a rusty saw," said Harold. "Don't go see our school nurse," said Melvin. "His office is right next to a five-star gourmet cafeteria." George and Harold looked confused. Thanks," said George. "But we'll be back." Chapter 5, Strangers in Paradise Lost. As George and Harold walked down the hallway to school, they noticed that something seemed wrong. Very wrong, but they couldn't figure out what it was. Miss Anthrop, the unbelievably crabby school secretary, passed by the boys and smiled kindly. "Why, hello, George and Harold," she said. "It's so good to see you, too. Have a wonderful day." And George and Harold looked suspiciously. "Oh, what just happened?" asked Harold. "I don't know," said George, "but something strange sure is going on." George and Harold opened their locker and carefully poked crackers and Sulu aside. "Shh, they're asleep," said George. "Good," said Harold. "They can take a nap while we get to class." On the way to their homeroom, George and Harold stopped to switch the letters around on the lunch menu sign. But just as they were finishing, their principal, Mr. Crump, caught them red-handed. "Hey, Bubs," he said, "what are you kids doing out here?" George stammered. "You see, we were, please eat my plump, juicy butchers?" asked Mr. Crump, giggling with glee. "That's gonna be the best thing I've seen all day. You boys are gonna cut me up. You're hilarious." Then, with a spring in his step, Mr. Crump pranced away, whistling a merry tune. "Oh, what just happened?" asked George. "Shh," whispered George. "Look!" George pointing at two kids who were coming toward them, reading a homemade comic book. The kid on the left had a t-shirt and a flat top, and the one on the right had a tie and a bad haircut. Please feel free to remember that now if you wish. It's us!" whispered George. "How could it be us?" whispered Harold. "I thought we were us." George and Harold hid behind the trash can as their two alike walked toward them. They stopped in front of the lunch menu sign and frowned. Then a devilish look came over their faces and quickly began rearranging the letters to Anarchy Rules. The strange boys snickered wickedly as they sneaked away from their prank. "Oh, what just happened?" asked Harold. "I think I figured it out," said George. Chapter 6, The World According to George. "I think the Purple Potty brought us to some kind of strange backwards universe," said George. "No way," said Harold. "That kind of thing only happens in poorly written children's stories whose authors have clearly begun running out of ideas. Here, I'll prove it," said George. The two friends walked to the cafeteria and took a whiff. "That's weird," said Harold. "It doesn't smell like dirty diapers, greasy dishwater, and moldy tennis shoes in here anymore. It smells like food." "Yup," said George. Next, the boys went to the gymnasium. That's weird, said Harold. Our gym teacher isn't fat anymore. It is not incredibly cruel to non-athletic kids like he usually is. Yep, said George. What would you look at that? Mr. Meter, the gym teacher, he's actually living up to the name by looking swollen stuff. Anyway, finally, George and Harold stepped outside. That's weird, said Harold. All of our ablest and most terrifying enemies from the past have been miraculously transformed into good guys. Yep, said George. What I quite understand is why did Professor Pants team up with Zorks, Clax, and Jennifer? And why did Carl abandon his two other buddies over there? Whatever. Chapter 7, Getting Out of Town. George and Harold ran back to their locker. Let's crack crackers and Zulu and get out of this place, said George. Good idea, said Harold. But when they opened the locker door, their two friends were missing. What the heck are crackers and Zulu? Cried George. I don't know, said Harold. Nobody else has the combination to our locker. Nobody else except our twins, gasped George. Harold tried to shut their locker, but the door jammed on something. What's that? Asked George. Looks like a comic book, said Harold. He held it up and read the comic book out loud. At that moment, George and Harold began to get a dreadful sense of the horror they were up against. Chapter 8, The Preposterous Plight and Captain Blunderpants. The Preposterous Plight and Captain Blunderpants by Harold Hodgson and George Beard. Once upon a time, there lived two evil children named George and Harold. I bet as well. They had a very nice principal who went by the name of Mr. Crump. Hello, boys, have a pleasant day. Whatever. One day, George and Harold hypnotized Mr. Crump. You'll obey us. Yes, sir. They made him think he was an evil villain. You're not Captain Blunderpants. All right. George and Harold made Captain Underpants do all sorts of evil things. Steal us a video game system. Okay. And Captain Underpants obeyed. Crash. Steal us a big screen television. Okay. Crash. I'm so happy I could cry. Me too. Uh-oh. Crash. Here comes the tissues. Soon, George and Harold had the world's coolest treehouse. Do you boys need anything else? Yeah, how about a pizza? Sure thing. And so, crash. Hold on right there, Captain Blunderpants. You stole TVs, jacuzzis, pop machines, massage chairs, and disco balls, but this time you've gone too far. You have to rest for Grand Theft Pizza. You gotta catch me first. Zip. And the chase was on. Soon Captain B was chased onto the freeway. When suddenly, oh no! Hey, look! Oh, crash! The strange mixture of chocolate, peanut butter, and extra cheese combined to create a super powerful chemical reaction, which gave Captain Blunderpants amazing brush. I feel super. I feel super non-control. And then here's your pizza, boys. And where's the pineapple? Crash! Wow, just thinking of all the evil things we can do now. With Captain Underpants as our evil, superpowered villain, we'll be able to get away with anything. So the entire world will be ours. Epilogue. Oh, by the way, whenever Captain Underpants hears someone snap his fingers, snap, he turns back into Mr. Crump. I was full day. And whenever Mr. Crump gets water on his head, he turns back into Captain Blunderpants. Remember that now. Chapter 9, Not Without My Hamster and My Pterodactyl. I think our evil twins made this comic book, said Harold. They must have, said George. The artwork is really bad. I'm pretty sure they misspelled some words.
Are you sure about that?
Let's get out of here, said Harold. Not without crackers and Zulu, said George. George and Harold ran to a window and looked out. There they saw their two evil twins sneaking home, carrying their beloved pets with them. Zulu and crackers have no idea what's going on, said George. They think those two guys are us. How in the world are we going to stop us? Asked Harold. Chapter 10, The Hypno-Horror. George and Harold knew exactly where those evil twins had taken Crackers and Zulu. To the same place they would have taken them, their tree house. So our two heroes dashed home as fast as they could. Then they climbed up the tree house ladder as quietly as they could. But when they peeked inside, they saw something that was 389 times worse than they ever could have imagined. Their evil twins were hypnotizing their beloved pets with a 3D hypno ring. You'll obey every command, said evil Harold. Yeah, said evil George. And you'll be really wicked from now on, too. George and Harold gasped, which is actually not a very smart thing to do if you're trying to go unnoticed. Hey, look! Shouted evil Harold. Gaspers! Get him! Shouted evil George to their newly hypnotized pets. Crackers didn't move. The dazed Pterodactyl shook his head and looked a little confused. But Zulu immediately sprung into action. He lunged at George and Harold, grabbed them by their shirts, and yanked them to the ground. Hey! Said evil George. Those kids look just like us! What should we do with them? We can't take any chances, said evil Harold. Then he called to Zulu in a loud and commanding voice. Destroy him, a wicked hamster! Chapter 11, Crackers to the rescue. Crackers didn't understand what was going on, but the plucky Pterodactyl knew that something needed to be done, and quickly. So with a sudden whoosh of flapping wings, Crackers swooped in and grabbed George and Harold from the relentless little paws of their raging robotic roving rival. That's a lot of alliterations to digest, especially with the titles. Oh no! Screamed. Cracker's gonna fly high into the air, drop us! We're doomed! Actually, I think he is trying to rescue us, said George. But he just got him to have sex with him. Why on earth would he, the opposite of what he was ordered to do? And how come all our pronouns are getting italicized? Actually, George, that actually could hint that Crackers is a female, because she did the opposite of what she was hypnotized to do. Like Ms. Ribble, remember that plot point from book 5? That's the first foreshadowing, making you wonder if Crackers really was a girl, all the way until it was revealed in book 10 in 2013. I'll get to that book later, but for now, let's not worry about that now, said Harold. We gotta get out of here. But we can't leave Sulu behind, cried George. Don't worry, said Harold. We'll come back for Sulu. So the three friends flew to the school and headed upstairs to the library. Hey, that looks like a pterodactyl, said Mr. Crump as our heroes pushed past him. Let me pet him! Mr. Crump cried, chasing after them. George, Harold, and Crackers finally reached the library just in time to see Sulu and their evil twins smash through the ceiling with a terrible crash. You losers won't get away from us this time, said Evil Harold. Desperately, George, Harold, and Crackers tumbled into the purple potty, slammed the doors shut, and quickly reset the controls. Mr. Crump and Sulu pounded on the door of the purple potty while George and Harold's evil twins shook the malfunctioning time machine from side to side. All at once, an orange light started flashing wildly. The purple potty began to shake and wobble violently. Then the entire room lit up with an explosive burst of lightning as the purple potty and everyone around it disappeared into the whirlwind of electric air. Chapter 12, Ka-Blamski! Suddenly there was another blinding flash of light. Everyone around the purple potty flew off in different directions. Then the purple potty stopped shaking and wobbling and switched into shutdown mode. George, Harold, and Crackers peeked out. Look, Harold, there aren't any books in this library. We must be back in our own reality. But we've got to be sure, said George. The two boys tucked Crackers into Harold's book bag and crept down into the hallway. As they peered into the windows of nearby classrooms, they saw room after room of heartbroken and despondent-looking children. Some were standing in corners, weeping. Others were sitting on dunce stools wearing humiliating hats, saying, "Dunce, I'm with stupid, loser, duh, dummy. This will go on my permanent record, Mr. Lice Guy." While still others were writing unbelievably degrading sentences over and over on the chalkboard as their teachers rifled through their lunchboxes, stealing all their best desserts. My parents only pretend I love me. I apologize for being born. I'm so ugly. When I was born, the doctor slapped my mom. Yep, sighed George. We're back in our reality. I never thought I'd say this, Harold, but it's good to be home. To the tray house! Cried George. Chapter 13, Purple Potty People Unite. Seconds after George, Harold, and Crackers left the library, the four confused beings from an alternate dimension began to stir. Evil George, Evil Harold, Evil Sulu, and nice Mr. Crump stumbled into the center of the strange, empty library, rubbing their heads and looking around curiously. Look, said Evil George, this library has no books on the shelves. Said Evil Harold. It looks like we've entered some kind of alternate universe, an illogical reality where everything is backwards. Backwards, eh? Said Evil George. We could do quite well in a place like this. Okay, now I'm being reminded of Good and Bad Johnny from Johnny Test, because I'm doing similar voices to these characters. Anyway, he walked over to the drink and found a splash of water on nice Mr. Crump's face. Suddenly, nice Mr. Crump, confused smile turned into evil frown. He ripped off his clothes and tied a curtain from a nearby window around his neck. Then Evil George handed him a bad toupee, and the pernicious principal stood before them, snarling angrily through his flared nostrils. "Oh, Captain Blunderpants!" he shouted in a thunderous voice. Chapter 14, the chapter where some stuff happens. Meanwhile, back at the treehouse, George and Harold grabbed some supplies before heading off to save Sulu. "We'll need our 3D hypno ring," said George, to change Sulu back to his old self again. "Cool," said Harold. "And we'd better take the rest of this extra strange superpowers just in case." "Good idea," said George. The two friends stuffed the supplies in their pterodactyl into the book bags and headed down the treehouse ladder. "Just where the heck do you two think you're going?" asked a commanding voice at the bottom of the ladder. It was George's dad, and he didn't seem very happy. George, well, we need to go back to school for something." "Yeah," said Harold, "we forgot something." "We'll have to wait until tomorrow," said George's dad. "We're having dinner with the Hutchinses tonight, remember?" "Oh yeah," said George. "It's Grandparents' Day. We almost forgot." "Well, you're just in time for dinner," said George's dad. "Go inside and wash up." "But the fate of the entire world is in our hands," cried Harold. "The fate of the entire world can wait until tomorrow," said George's dad. Chapter 15, Super Supper. As they washed their hands, the two boys went into the dining room. George's parents had prepared a big meal, and everybody waited patiently for George and Harold to join them. Harold's mom, sister, and grandpa were there, along with George's mom, dad, and great-grandma. "Hello, babies," said George's great-grandma. "What have you boys been up to today?" "Nothing," said George as he hugged his great-grandma. "We made you and Grandpa a comic book yesterday," said Harold. "You did?" asked Harold's grandpa. "Well, let's have a look." George shuffled through his book bag, taking things out and laying them on the table. "It's here somewhere," he said. Finally, he pulled out 2 copies of their latest comic book, The Adventures of Boxer Boy and Great Granny Girdle. "It's about how you guys turn into superheroes and save the world and stuff," said George. "I drew the pictures," said Harold. "Well, that's very nice, boys," said George's dad. "Now sit down and let's eat." We can't, George. We gotta go now. It's really important. George and Harold's grandparents poured themselves a glass of juice and began reading their new comic books while the boys continued arguing with George's dad. Chapter 16, The Adventures of Boxer Boy and Great Granny Girl, epic novel by George B. Intelligence. The Adventures of Boxer Boy and Great Granny Girl by George B. Intelligence. Everybody knows that grandparents are kind of dorky. They tell dumb jokes. Why did the silly Willie throw his clock in the air? He wanted to see time fly. Huh? They call you embarrassing nicknames in public. Hello, babies! They have no sense of what things cost. Here's a nickel. Why don't you buy a video game with it? Thanks, I will. But grandparents are still cool for one reason. We're old, and we don't care what anyone thinks. Out of the way, Buster Brown! Step aside, you bother me! Our heroes! And so everything was cool until one day, when a strange new store opened up downtown. They were selling robots. Hey, kids! Trade your old, worn-out grandparents for the latest in robo-geezer technology. Cool. They're tons better than regular grandparents. They tell funny jokes. One's 40 feet long and smells like pee. Like dancer at the old folks' home. They tell you cool nicknames in public. Hey, Thor. Yo, what up, dog? And best of all, they have no sense of what things cost. Here's $10,000 for a candy bar. Soon every kid in town was trading in their old grandparents. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. What are you taking us? Nowhere. That for brand new Robo Grannies and Grandpatron 2000s. Wow, cool! I love my new Robo-Geezers. Soon there's only 2 real grandparents left in town. You wouldn't trade us in, will you? No way! You better not! You'll get a whooping! Anyway, one day, George and Harold's grandparents went downtown. Something fishy is going on here. So they snuck inside the building. Shh! Soon, hey, look! They opened the door and saw a tragic discovery. Hey, all the grandparents in town got totally captured! Oh my! We've got to save those old folks! But how? Beats me. Hey, look, a whole bunch of hard candies. Let's forget those geezers for now and just eat candy. Wackies. Meanwhile, in the next room, in a few more days, those old folks will be under our control. Cool. Then I'll get them superpowers. How do you do that? Easy. I got a whole box of superpowered hard candies in the other room. Old people love hard candies. I know. Later, those candies were good. I feel so strong. Me too. I feel powerful. Oh no, this guy's eating all my superpowered hard candy. Uh-oh. George and Harold's grandparents George hand. Geezer powers activate! And they spun around and around. Soon they were transformed. I'm Boxer Boy and I'm Great Granny Girdle. I'm out of here. I'm with you. The bad guys ran upstairs. They got into a UFO on top of their building and took off. Calling all Robo-Geezers, attack Boxer Boy and Great Granny Girdle! Suddenly all the Robo-Geezers in town transformed. And off they flew. The Robo-Geezers attacked, but Boxer Boy and Great Granny Girdle were faster than a speeding electric scooter. Zoom! More powerful than adult diapers. Bonk! And able to lay tall buildings without breaking into him. But there's too many of them. I have an idea. Let's chase them. Let them chase you for a while. So the robots all chased Great Granny Girdle, and Boxer Boy attacked the spaceship. Alright! Punch! Bam! Bang! Crash! Kick! They got some pain. Alright! Shh! And they got a finishing touch. Hey, Robo-Dogs! Look! What? Hey, yummy! The Robo-Geezers tried to devour the spaceship in a wild-feeding frenzy. They ate. Womp, 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 womp. And then one of them bit on the fuel line and kaboom! We're free! Right for Boxer Boy and 3 cheers for Great Granny Girdle! The end. Chapter 17. Meanwhile, back at the treehouse, while George and Harold pleaded with George's dad to be excused from dinner, a pack of evil schemers was just outside the window, sneaking up to their treehouse. We've got to create some kind of diversion while we unleash our sinful scheme, said Evil Harold. The villains looked around the treehouse for anything they could use. What's this old thing? Said Evil George. He pressed the line on the back of the miniature Goosey Girl for 1,000. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot out the tiny contraption, accidentally zapping Evil Sulu, who was tucked inside Evil Harold's shirt pocket. Immediately, Evil Sulu began to grow bigger and bigger until he leaped out of Evil Harold's pocket and fell to the floor with a giant thud. Evil Sulu was now the size of a full-grown sheepdog. The villains all smiled at one another as they watched Evil Sulu grow and snarl ferociously. I think we found our diversion, said Evil George and zapped Evil Sulu again. Chapter 18. Crash! Suddenly, Evil Sulu grew to the size of a giant monster. He jumped out of the treehouse and landed in George's backyard with a terrible thunderous crash. And seriously, how did not even push the way? It's implied that these lines here, they literally took a jump from that door and land with it here with that explosion, but like the... What was that? Cried George's dad. Everyone jumped up and dashed outside to get a better look at the horrible creature that towered over the house, snarling, roaring hideously. For some strange reason, George and Harold's grandparents jumped up and dashed faster than they had moved in years, but nobody had really noticed because of that giant hamster thing. "What's going on?" cried Harold. "Those evil guys must have followed us back into our own reality somehow," whispered George. "We've got to stop them before they take over our world." Sulu crosses his master's way through the neighborhood, heading toward the big city, because, well, that's where giant monsters usually head. George ran inside and grabbed the 3D Hypno ring and the super pouches, which felt surprisingly empty, and whistled for crackers. And while the grown-ups were fussing and fretting over trivial things like broken fences, insurance policies, and property damage reports, George and Harold and Crackers flew up to save the world. Like, I'm sorry, I just want to point out, this guy's literally tearing apart buildings. Thanks to this stupid Captain Underpants story, people are literally dying because of this stupid hamster hypno ring, Goosey Grover 1000. I don't know which one's more to blame, but, and probably the people from the other reality. Anyway, Chapter 19, When Hamsters Attack.com. Soon the three friends soared over the center of the city. There they met up with their beloved pet Sulu, who was now a giant evil monster destroying everything in his path. "Well," said Harold, "it looks like you and I are going to have to drink that superpower juice so we can stop giant evil Sulu from wrecking the city." Harold," said George as he eyed the carton of the superpower juice suspiciously. "I'm so psyched," said Harold. "I've always wanted to have superpowers." Harold," said George again as he held the carton to his ear and shook it back and forth. "I hope I get Kung Fu grip and X-ray vision," said Harold. "That would be awesome." Harold," shouted George as he turned the superpower juice carton upside down. "There's nothing left." "What do you mean?" cried Harold. "There was like a third of the carton in there 20 minutes ago." "Well, it's gone now," said George. "It must have evaporated or something." Well, hold on, let me clear things up. I'm gonna clear up the confusion. The first third was used on Captain Underpants to defeat the giant dandelion book 3. The second third was accidentally spilled on Miss Ribble's hair while she was a wicked wedgie woman at that time in book 5. And then, most recently, their great-grandma and grandpa drank the last third because they cluelessly left it on the table. "No, this is not your fault." Anyway, the boys watch helplessly as giant evil Sulu continue trashing the city. "Well," said George, "I guess there's just one thing left to do." Hurriedly, the three friends flew to the house of their principal, Mr. Krupp. It was easy to find since it was the only one on Curmudgeon Boulevard that was covered in toilet paper. "Next time we gotta use single-ply toilet paper," said George. "We'll get better coverage." After a quick knock on the door and an even quicker snap of the fingers, Mr. Krupp transformed into the amazing Captain Underpants. And in no time at all, the world's greatest, baldest superhero was face-to-face with the world's biggest, baddest, bionic hamster. Chapter 20, The Grandfather Chapter Part 1, Flip-O-Rama. Back in the old days, incredible grandfathers was believed to be harmful, dangerous, and even immoral. But now it's fun for the whole family thanks to the science of Flip-O-Rama. Hamster havoc. Psh, 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 psh. Put your head on my boulder. Psh, 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 psh. That was quick. Anyway, Chapter 21, the Anti-Climatic chapter. The battle between man and beast was over. George Harold petted Sulu's giant face and breathed a sigh of relief. "He'll be okay," said George. "He just got knocked out." "Great," said Harold. "It looks like all of our problems are over." "Not so fast!" came a voice that came from somewhere on the lower right-hand corner of the next page. It was Evil George, along with Evil Harold, the ultra-evil Captain Blunderpants. The terrible trio had been busy working on their preposterous plight, which is just a fancy way of saying that they were busy robbing a bank. "Somebody's been messing with our giant attack hamster," said Evil Harold. "I think we need to teach those goody-goodies a lesson." "And I'm just the guy to do it," said Captain Underpants proudly. The mood shifted. Everyone stood back. The air crackled with tension. The showdown of the century was about to begin. Captain Underpants would soon engage in a storied battle with his evil twin. Never before had our brave hero encountered an enemy who was so powerful. Pound for pound. Superpower for superpower. Captain Underpants was pitted against his equal. He had met his match. It was to be the ultimate smackdown. An all-out war. The brawl to end all brawls. The definitive clash between good and evil. A momentous confrontation in the most critical. Snap! George snapped his fingers, and suddenly the horrifyingly evil Captain Blunderpants transformed into a friendly elementary school principal. "Oh, man!" cried Evil George and Evil Harold. "We read your comic book back in Chapter 8, said Harold. Did you think we wouldn't remember how to turn your evil supervillain back into a harmless principal?" George and Harold quickly found some rope and tied up Evil Harold, and nice Mr. Krupp. "We're taking you losers back to your own reality where you won't bother us ever again," said George. "All we have to do is dehypnotize and shrink Sulu, and our job will be done," said Harold. Now, before we continue, I don't know why nice Mr. Krupp is this stupid to be smiling when he's all tied up. But anyway, nothing could possibly go wrong now. "You know, you really shouldn't say things like that," said George. "Why?" said Harold. Chapter 22. Kaboom! Suddenly, lightning flashed, thunder crashed, and the rain came tumbling down. That's why! After the first few drops of rain hit Captain Underpants' pussy face, he began to transform. In a matter of seconds, he changed from his cosmic powerful superhero to an angry, annoyed elementary school principal. Unlike Wisely, the rain on the face thing was having the opposite effect on nice Mr. Krabs, transforming him once again into an arrogant, foul-tempered supervillain named Captain Blunderpants. Yep, when they get water on their heads, they turn to their bad selves. Evil George and Evil Harold father Evil smiled, and Captain Underpants stumbled over and yelled out, trying to George and Harold quickly snapped their fingers and canted again, but it was having no effect. It was raining too hard, and Mr. Krabs was getting annoyed. Because if you remember from Book 6, George and Harold cannot snap their fingers as soon as another drop of water hits their head, which is pretty much instantly they turn back. Anyway, this is the dumbest dream I've ever had! He shouted, I'm gonna go home and get back into bed! And with that, he turned and strode off toward his soggy toilet paper covered house. And that's the last we see of Captain Underpants. Like seriously, this brief moment of him beating up Sulu, getting water in his head and leaving, is the only time that we see our Captain Underpants in this story. Like seriously, this is the only time, just these few brief chapters, the only time we see him. We don't see him like at the conclusion or intro or anything. Anyways, continue. Looks like the tables have turned, Evil Harold snickered. You got number one yet? Quickly, George and Harold laced out the practice back as the three full-on friends flew off toward their treehouse. Don't just stand there! Cried Evil Harold towards his creeping cohorts. Let's get him! Chapter 23, 2 minutes later. Back in George's yard, our heroes searched furiously through their treehouse. I found it! Cried George. The shrinking pitches up. All we have to do is shrink those evil losers and we'll save the world. Too late! Shouting Captain Blunderpants and grabbed George out like a short bullet. We'll take that shrinky thingy! I'm not sure how it works, but once I figure it out, I can think about 1,000,009 evil things to do with it! Captain Blunderpants held George and Harold high into the air and snarled viciously. Prepare to be pulverized! What the hell? No way to pickle bigger than Vinny, young fella! Captain Underpants sounded voice from inside George's house. Chapter 24. Nobody messes with our grandbabies! Harold's grandpa and George's great-grandma stepped onto the back patio and confronted the big bully Captain Blunderpants. You put those babies down or you'll get the flipping of your lifetime! Said George's great-grandma. Captain Blunderpants laughed haughtily. We're not gonna warn you again, Skippy! Said Harold's grandpa. Captain Blunderpants continued to tighten his grip on George and Harold. So the two octogenarians joined hands and gazed fiercely into each other's eyes and shouting, "Get your powers activate!" Quickly, they began spinning around and around. Faster and faster, the gold globes twirled until a tornado formed around them, tearing away their clothes and jewelry and sending patio furniture flying violently. Well, what happens if one of them get killed? They both lose their power. Whatever. Suddenly, the twirling stopped, the tornado subsided, and the elderly twosome stood prowling in their underwear, huffing, puffing, fearlessly facing their foe. "Oh, that was fun! Let's do it again, Henry!" said George's great-grandma. Laughed Harold's grandpa. "Alright, my dear, but we gotta teach our silly Willie a lesson first." Alright, before we continue, you cannot be a kid and not be busting a gut right now. Anyway. "Oh yeah," said George's great-grandma. "That young fella's got a hankering for a spanking." Harold's grandpa grabbed a couple of curtains from the kitchen window and tied them around their necks. "Not too tight, Henry," said George's great-grandma. With their capes in place, George and Harold's super grandparents approached Captain Blunderpants triumphantly. "Alright, sonny," said Harold's grandpa. "Prepare to get your bucket whooped by box blade great-granny Girdle." Chapter 25, The Grand Grandfather Chapter Part 2 of Flip-O-Rama, The Geriatric Jawbreaker. A cane in the brain. Take a walk around the wild side. Wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the actual Captain Underpants can survive a Godzilla-sized bionic hamster with saber-toothed teeth and devil eyes acting like the Hulk? But his evil self couldn't stand up against two random old people? Huh. But anyway, so... Chapter 26, Shrinky-Dorks. You know, Sir George, I think I just figured out what happened to the superpowers that disappeared earlier. "Oh yeah?" said Evil George. "But you didn't figure this out. All we have to do is press one button on the shrinking machine, and you'll all be transported to tiny little strips." "Go ahead and press the button," laughed Harold. "You're only a backwards anyway. You'll shrink yourselves." "Really?" said Evil Harold. "Gee, thanks." He turned the shrinking pin 2000 around and pressed the button. Zap! Then they were strong to the size of potato chips. "Hey!" shouted medieval George. "What happened?" "Oops," said Harold. "I guess I made a mistake. You actually were holding it right the first time. My bad. You know, Sir George, I think I know two little boys who could really use a good spanking." Chapter 27, The Choreographed Usher to Part 3 in Flip-O-Rama. Well, folks, you know what to do, and you know how to do it. Happy Spanksgiving. Chapter 28, Wrapping Things Up. Well, looks like our job here is done, said Boxer Boy. Yes, it is, my big strong man, said Great Granny Girdle, giggling gleefully. Okay, seriously, stop with the alliterations right now. Anyway, George and Harold looked at each other in horror. You know, little lady, said Boxer Boy, someone out there is an all-you-can-eat buffet with the senior citizens' early bird special just going to waste. Well, then let's go fight, you big Uncle Love, said Great Granny Girdle as he kissed him passionately on his wobbly neck fat. The scene that followed could best be described as Julian's 5-minute kiss in the history of children's books. Dentures sloshed, wrinkles flapped, and rubbery gels swished, smooshed, and quivered gluttonously. Sir Harold, I think I need to go wash my eyeballs. Me too, said George. And as the arthritic Avengers flew off into the sunset, George and Harold decided to try very, very hard not to think about the disgusting event they just witnessed. Come on, we gotta wrap this story up, said George. First, we need to dehypnotize and shrink Sulu. Then we've got to go back to that crazy purple potty and return these bozos into their alternate universe, said Harold. Chapter 29. To make a long story short, zap! Chapter 30. To make a longer story even shorter, kick! Chapter 31. The chapter where nothing bad happens. Gee, that worked out pretty good, said Harold. Sulu is now back to his normal size and personality, and the Purple Potty People are back in their own reality where they won't be able to bother us ever again. I guess everything worked out perfectly. Yeah, nice going, said George, looking a bit annoyed. Why do you have to say things like that? Things like what? Asked Harold. Have you been paying attention to these stories? Asked George. Every time somebody says something like that, that means a bunch of bad stuff is just about to happen. But what could possibly go wrong now? Asked Harold. Freeze! Shouted the chief of police. You guys are under arrest for robbing Frank's bank. It looks like you're going to jail for the rest of your lives. See what I mean, Sir George? You gotta stop saying something like that. But wait a minute, why did they have the time to rob the bank? They bothered to rob a bank and then go to their own treehouse to see what their cells were in? Oh, I guess that makes sense. They arrived, committed a few crimes, and then thought, hey, I wonder what our other cells have in the treehouse. But anyways, I guess you're right, Harold. But at least things can't get any worse. Ah! Screamed George. You did it again! Now that we enter the next page, something even worse is going to happen. You gotta learn to keep your mouth shut at the end of these books. Yeah, but what could be worse than going to jail for the rest of our lives? Chapter 32. The thing that could be worse than going to jail for the rest of their lives. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a ball of blue lightning appeared, growing bigger and bigger until it exploded into blinding flash. And there, standing where the ball of lightning had been, was a smoking pair of giant robotic pants. This can't be good, said George. A small opening at the front of the robot pants began to unzip. And out of that opening peeked a fearsomely familiar face. Hey, it's Professor Potty Pants! Shouted Harold. The cop started to laugh. Stop laughing! Shouted the little man peeking out of the giant zipper. My name is no longer Professor Potty Pants! I changed those little tippy tinker trousers! The cops laughed even harder. They probably thought that name was even better. But anyway. And I got a special surprise for anybody who says my new name is funny, said the furious professor. Immediately, the metallic pants opened up at the top, and a giant laser shooter rose from its robotic depths. A brilliant burst of energy zapped the laughing cops, and suddenly they were both transformed into frozen statues. My freezing evil assassin will take care of anybody who stands in my way, said Tippy. And now, he said with a wicked smile, it's time for my revenge! Oh no! Screamed Harold. Here I go again! Screamed George. So there we go. That's Captain Underpants Book 8. Great book. I highly recommend it. And you know the drill. This book is brought to you by my dad, Pilkey, the creator of the entire category series. Read the books, enjoy the books, race battles, enjoy battles, and I'll see you next week where I read the next book. There we go. Captain Underpants at the terrifying turn to the controls. Why are you wearing a button shirt? Oh yeah, that's right. He has a different costume. Right. Thanks again so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Like, subscribe. Goodbye. Oh, George, subscribe. Thanks. Bye.